In this video I will explain you everything about the video functions of the Canon 7D Mark II, and one of the most important features you already saw just now, which is the continuous autofocus during video mode, in this case the face detection. It is so important because it probably is the best working continuous autofocus during video mode on the DSLR market. You can choose between the face detection, autofocus on one specific AF point, or you can let the camera choose any of the 65 available AF points, what I would never do because the camera just chooses whatever it wants. I usually choose one AF point. The problem of this is, however, that when using it, you always have to keep the object you want to have in focus at that exact place where you put the AF point, so many times in the middle. Changing the AF point while shooting is extremely inconvenient because you have to do it with the joystick. This only works well on static objects and on a tripod. With a touchscreen like the 750D, 7D or soon the 80D have, it is much more practical. But as I said before, the autofocus works extremely well and reliable. I hardly ever experienced any focus hunting. Unfortunately, the continuous autofocus does not work when filming with 50 or 60 FPS. One really good feature is that you can adjust the speed, how fast the focus should be adjusted. I usually prefer a slower speed because it feels more smooth and natural when filming. You can also adjust the sensitivity when it should start to take another object into focus. Most of the time a lower sensibility is useful so that the autofocus doesn't get fooled so easily. Is autofocus that important? I so far never had continuous autofocus during video mode on any of my DSLR cameras, and I was always fine with it because I know my lenses so well that I just know how to pull focus manually. But on the other side I always had Magic Lantern, which gave me focus peaking. That's why I rely on the autofocus so much more than on my other cameras. The camera has a lot of different recording modes. All I is a mode where the video stores more data, so you can do better color grading in post. IPB is the normal mode, which creates smaller videos, but with not as many information in the file. If you don't edit the video in post, you probably won't see the difference. 50/60 FPS is especially important when you want to do slow motion. But you can only use IPB, and what is even worse, as I said before, you cannot use the autofocus. In Full HD 30 FPS, you can choose between All I and IPB and use the autofocus. 720p, well, I don't really see much use for that nowadays, but if you want to use it, go for it. With the lack of 4K resolution, it does look a bit outdated. In my opinion, the video quality doesn't look bad at all. But on the other side, honestly said, under good light conditions, my 600D, which is much older, delivers almost the same quality. For me, only the 60 FPS in Full HD are a big step from the 600D. Now let's have a look on the camera body. The first thing I want to say, I already used Canon 5D, 6D, 70D, plenty of Canon cameras, but never had I fallen in love with the camera body as I fell in love with this one. It feels so well built and the buttons are just perfect. You can access everything so quickly. It does not have an articulated screen, which for me isn't such a big deal. I'm okay with it even when using it on my Steadicam. When filming in low positions, it of course isn't so convenient, but again, for me, not a big deal. The camera has a microphone input and you can adjust the sound volume manually. The reason that I like this camera so much is mainly because it feels so well built, because it feels so solid, and because it feels so expensive also. And because it's so, you can take really awesome pictures with it as well. On the other side, the camera is very heavy, very bulky, which is totally okay for me for most things, especially when I am doing a job like filming a wedding or filming any other kind of event, or especially when making my YouTube videos here. I am totally fine with it when the camera is big and bulky and looks cool and everything, and has 30 different buttons, actually like 30 buttons. But on the other side, when I would go for traveling or hiking or anywhere, then I would really not want to bring that kind of camera with me. And that's why I also think that you have to consider what you want to use this camera for. If you are looking for a smaller body, then you could also have a look on mirrorless cameras, because they tend to be much smaller and much lighter. Or on the other side, if you are not really into sports or wildlife photography, you should also have a look on the 80D, because this one will have even more video features than the 7D Mark II.